Giant institutions project an image of absolute security. We assume their defenses are made of rigid steel, but in reality, their architecture rests on a fragile foundation of unwritten human expectations. The people who build massive systems rely on the public behaving in predictable, normal ways. If you play by those social norms, the house always wins. But if you take their rules perfectly literally, you can bypass their defenses entirely. Breaking the rules leads to a quick exit. Inhabiting the rules more literally than the designers intended leads to a payday the system is legally required to honor. In 1981, the American economy was reeling. With interest rates soaring and cash reserves draining, American Airlines needed an immediate injection of capital. To get it, they decided to sell off the ultimate asset, lifetime access to their first-class cabin. They created the Air Pass. For $250,000, buyers secured unlimited first-class travel for life. The marketing department aimed this at Fortune 500 CEOs and elite lawyers. The assumption was that busy executives would fly maybe 30 times a year, write off the cost, and never look at the math again. This graph plots the core problem. The airline collected a fixed upfront fee right here, but offered a service with an infinitely rising usage curve. The corporate lawyers drafted the word unlimited into the contract because they assumed human fatigue would cap a curve, that eventually even the most frequent traveler wants to stay home. Steve Rothstein was a Chicago investment banker who specialized in assessing long-term return on capital. He treated the Air Pass contract as a mathematical guarantee, an asset with zero legal restrictions and no ceiling on its yield. He took the word unlimited literally. He flew to London for lunch. He flew to Providence for cheese. Over 2 decades, Rothstein booked over 10,000 flights and accumulated 30 million miles. At standard fares, he was occupying $1 million of unsold inventory every single year. He did not forge documents. He did not hack the booking system. He booked under his own name at the official counter. Every single flight was protected by the exact text American Airlines had drafted and signed. The corporation had no legal mechanism to stop him. To sever the contract, they had to hire private detectives, track his movements, and retroactively classify his speculative, last-minute cancellations as fraud. When a system can no longer afford its own promises, it manufactures a way to rewrite the rules. The same vulnerability exists in silicon. When an institution relies on a computer program to protect its assets, the blind spot gets baked into the code. In 1984, CBS launched a daytime game show called Press Your Luck. The centerpiece was a massive, illuminated wall that bounced a flashing light between prizes and penalties. The network aggressively marketed it as completely random and impossible to predict. True random number generation was technically expensive in the early 1980s. The show's lead programmer took a shortcut. He wrote 5 fixed, 28-step sequences that simply ran on a continuous loop. The engineering team assumed the lights moved too fast for the human eye to track in real time. Michael Larson ignored the live studio broadcast. Instead, he sat in an Ohio basement with a VCR. For 6 months, working up to 10 hours a day, he recorded the show and paused his television frame by frame to log the exact millisecond the light arrived at each square. This animated loop illustrates what Larson mapped out. In 3 of the 5 patterns, squares 4 and 8 never contained a penalty. If you knew the rhythm, those squares guaranteed a cash prize and a free spin to keep playing. When Larson finally stood on the CBS stage, he used that memorized rhythm. He hit the buzzer exactly when the math told him to. He took 40 consecutive winning spins, banking $110,000, the largest single-day payout in daytime television history. CBS froze the payout and launched a massive corporate investigation. They X-rayed his podium looking for hidden transmitters and found nothing. Larson merely observed public data with more discipline than the network used to hide it. His afternoon on stage forced every major American game show to rewrite its underlying software architecture. A deterministic shortcut, left in plain sight, will eventually be reverse-engineered by a patient observer. The largest deterministic system we interact with is the global economy. We are taught to assume that a price tag is an absolute, fixed measurement of worth. In 2005, a 25-year-old named Kyle McDonald bet a year of his life that he could bypass money entirely. Starting with a single red paperclip, he set out to trade hand to hand, item for item, until he owned a house. He refused to spend a single cent to bridge a trade. Look at this scale. Money assigns one flat number to an object, ignoring context. But subjective desire varies wildly from person to person. A camper stove sitting in a garage is useless to its owner, but highly valuable to someone trying to get rid of an oversized electrical generator. McDonald climbed this gap in desire. In his strangest trade, he gave up an afternoon hanging out with rock legend Alice Cooper in exchange for a $50 motorized Kiss snow globe. The internet called him a fool, but McDonald knew a specific Hollywood director who obsessively collected snow globes and desperately wanted that exact piece. To that director, the toy was worth a speaking role in a movie. By this stage, the physical objects had become secondary. McDonald began trading the international attention his blog generated, weaponizing the spotlight as a currency worth far more than any generator or a truck. That movie role became his final chip. A dying prairie town in Saskatchewan had empty homes and a desperate need to revive its local economy. They gave McDonald a 2-story house on Main Street in exchange for the movie role, deliberately buying the permanent global spotlight that came with his final trade. This trade was the result of a calculated exploit of differing subjective values, not a stroke of magic or luck. McDonald moved through 14 trades in 1 year, starting with an item worth a fraction of a cent and ending with real estate. Steve Rothstein, Michael Larson, and Kyle McDonald beat 3 different structures. They proved that massive institutions leave their vulnerabilities hiding in plain sight, waiting for the one person who stops making assumptions and starts reading the fine print.